Turn up your radio. It's time for DeLorean Talk with your host, Dave Tavers.
Hi, and thanks for joining another episode of DeLorean Talk. This is Dave Tavers, VIN number 10515. I'm excited today to have another female owner on the show that it's kind of rare out there, but I met Dara at DeLorean Week in Las Vegas 2017, just this last October, and she's also kind of a new owner and fun and interesting to talk to. And I said, hey, would you mind being on the show at some point? And she said, yeah. So she finally said, okay, I'm ready. And even though she says, well, I don't know how ready I am, here she is. So Dara, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
And thanks for listening. You said that you'd listen to all the episodes. Did you know about the show before I met you at DeLorean Weekend?
I think I had seen it on Jay Shetland had done an episode and had posted it, so I had listened to his episode, and that's how I kind of found the show, and I listened to all the other ones too. So
awesome.
Yeah, I had known a little bit about it before we met in person.
Cool. So you know Jay Shetland from the Utah area club, the Utah DeLorean Club?
DeLorean Motor Club Utah, I guess
That's what it is.
Officially called. Yeah.
Got it. Yep, and I had Jay on not too long ago because he got in that big accident. And how long have you known Jay from the club?
I guess since last year. I met up with him when I was first looking for my car. Andy Strano from Vegas, I guess, kind of virtually introduced me to him because they knew each other, and Jay was actually the one who bird dogged the car I ended up buying. He knew the guy who was selling it.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
What is your VIN?
10907.
10907, and I'm 10515, so we're close.
Yeah.
So, and how long have you had your car? When did you buy it?
I bought it in July of 16, and I picked it up from Midwest at the end of August 16. So I've had it a little over a year now.
Just over a year. And I'm coming up on my 2 years, January 8th. So I've had my car a little bit longer than you.
Happy upcoming DeLorean anniversary.
DeLorean anniversary. I like that. So just over a year. And what made you want a DeLorean?
Oh, well, I mean, it's just I saw it for the first time when it rolled off Doc Brown's truck when I was 8 years old in 1985, and I knew I had to have one, and I always wanted one, and finally decided I needed to get one.
Were you into cars growing up?
I was definitely into DeLoreans. There were some other cars I liked too, but that was the main one. I never really got very hands-on with cars when I was younger. I had never even changed my own oil, and technically still haven't, but I've actually done a lot more work on them since buying this car than I ever had in my life before.
I always say, especially at car shows, people start talking engines and other stuff to me, and I stop them and I go, actually, I really don't know anything about cars. I grew up working on cars, family cars, but I'm not a car guy. I say, I'm not a car guy, I'm just a DeLorean guy. So same thing with seeing the car in Back to the Future as a kid, and then when I get older, just liking the design and the look of it and the uniqueness of it and the stainless steel and the doors, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've got that Polaroid of myself in the Back to the Future car that a couple other people have mentioned from when it was making the rounds in the late 80s and early 90s.
Do you remember where was that at that you got the picture?
It must have been at some car show in either maybe it was in Pennsylvania, or else it was when we were on vacation at Universal Studios in California.
Oh, wow.
It's got a sign in it for Universal, I think.
And I don't think I've seen that photo. I don't know if you've posted it in any of the groups, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's my avatar on DMC Talk too.
Awesome. Okay, I'll definitely have to check that out. I love seeing those old pictures. I know Steve Concatelli that did the Out of Time Saving the DeLorean Time Machine movie. He's got a picture like that from Universal from 20 years ago or something as well. So it's kind of fun to see those old photos. So in the year and a half you've had the car, what's the longest distance that you've driven it?
I drove it from Salt Lake to Chicago and then to New Jersey and back home.
Wow. That is a long drive. When was this?
It was last May.
Wow.
I did it in a couple legs. I had driven from Salt Lake to Chicago to get Midwest to look it over before my really big drive, and that was at the end of April, and I left it there for a week and then flew back and picked it up and drove it to Philly to visit family there, and I ended up visiting a friend in Jersey too and another friend in Baltimore. And
that is awesome. Holy cow. How long did that whole trip take? How many hours were you in the car? How many days were you in the car?
A lot. All of it together was at least 3 weeks, I think.
Wow. Geez, I'm sitting here thinking if I've talked to anybody else that's done that long of a drive. I know Andy just moved from Vegas to someplace else, and I know he trailered it. I know Skip here in Southern California, Skip Vaughn, has driven his car from here to Texas for an open house at DMC Houston. That's a long drive, Salt Lake to Chicago. Wow. And this is shortly after you'd gotten the car. I assume you had it kind of looked over by a mechanic and then you just went. Did you have any major problems on the trip?
Not on that trip. I was playing whack-a-mole with a lot of cooling system stuff when I first bought it. Because I had when I bought it, I picked it up in Chicago and then drove it back here too. So that was the first time I'd ever driven a DeLorean, was a 1,400-mile road trip.
Holy cow! That really is amazing. And have you talked to anybody else that has done that long of a trip?
I know there was a guy on DMC Talk, I think, who had he might have even gone farther on his first trip. He had picked his up somewhere in the Midwest too, I think, and driven back to the Pacific Northwest. And there was another guy on there who had just bought his car, and I think he picked it up in Georgia and drove back to Pittsburgh with it. That was a pretty long one too.
Wow. Well, and actually Jay Shetland, I think he picked his car from Midwest and drove it to Salt Lake, and then he's driven between Salt Lake City and Seattle and Salt Lake City and Los Angeles many times before it got totaled.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done a lot of driving in his too.
But still amazing. You pick up your car for the first time in Chicago and drive it across the country. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like Steve Ballmer said in Pirates of Silicon Valley, sometimes not knowing how crazy something is a good thing.
So whether it was on that first trip or when you went back and did Chicago and Jersey, other than cooling system, any other issues?
There, on the trip to Philly, I was having this intermittent issue of my starter not working. I didn't know it was the starter at the time. It was just every so often I'd turn the key and nothing would happen. And I had it a couple different shops, and it just would never do it when somebody was looking at it. And then finally, on my way back, I was at DPI, and it happened to do that when Josh was watching, and he found the problem, which was that the starter was slowly shaking loose and not grounding every once in a while.
Oh. So it was literally just a wiring issue? You had to
Yeah, it hadn't been quite installed right, and it just ended up having to be replaced, but it all worked out. It didn't strand me.
Yeah.
The first trip on my way back from Chicago, I actually made it without a tow truck that time too, but I had a couple more tow truck calls in the intervening few months between when I bought it and I ended up having the engine overhauled over the winter in 2016 down in SoCal, and the coolant system's been overall decent ever since, except I've had to go back and tighten all the clamps just recently, I guess, with the temperature change.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I ended up pulling my intake manifold off and cleaning a bunch of coolant out of the valley over the Thanksgiving week.
Oh, because of the cold weather, things contracted.
Yeah.
And did you split any hoses or anything? I mean, how did you get coolant in the valley there?
They weren't split. I think maybe what happened was just maybe the clamps needed to be retightened a little bit because the cold weather had, like I've heard from other people, that sometimes you need to do that after a few months. I've probably put at least 8,000 miles on the car since the overhaul.
Wow. And here I was thinking that I had put a lot of miles on my car. Yeah. So do you remember how many miles were on your car when you got it?
I think I just had rolled over 21,000 on like the first night. So I've put about 13,000 on since then.
That is just awesome. You know, everybody always says, oh, the cars like to be driven. And as you drive it more, you're going to work out all the little kinks and problems. And, that is going to be fun. I'm assuming it's not your daily driver.
It is on sunny days in the summer.
Yeah.
I do drive it as much as I can when the weather's decent. I try to keep it out of the rain because the trunk's a little leaky, and that was another thing I had to get fixed on my way back from Philly. The roof was leaking, and I stopped at Midwest and let them patch that up before I headed back towards Salt Lake, and that turned out to be a good thing because I got stuck in a supercell thunderstorm in Iowa. So,
and it wasn't just the door seals?
No, it was actually like up by the top of the windshield. There was a seal that had sprung a leak, and they had to like take off that black strip and reseal it.
Got it. So it was actually the windshield seal had degraded over the years, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What other? You said you've had the engine overhauled by DMC California.
Mm-hmm.
Was that? Did you do an upgrade, or was that just because the engine had sat for so long?
Well, yeah, it was, because as far as I can figure out, the original owner had parked it since 1993 with coolant in the lines.
Oh.
And when I had bought it, there was a lot of rust and sediment in there, and like it behaved itself when they were inspecting it at Midwest. And then when I got halfway through Nebraska, it would randomly, the temperature would spike, and I'd have to pull over and let it cool off. And then I'd do that once, and it would be good for the rest of the day. And then the next day it would do it again. And it kind of went like that. And
wow. At least it was consistent.
Yeah, I had to get the thermostat replaced in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and they used a Napa one that may or may not have been right. It had the jiggle pin and the C-shaped O-ring like it was supposed to have, but I was still having problems, and ended up like replacing that and a bunch of other lines and things with the DMC ones. But then when I was down in California that winter visiting my cousin, I was hauling up the mountain to her house in Oceanside for going uphill for about 20 minutes straight, and it was creeping up again, and found some leakage by the back by the thermostat. And then so I took it to the shop there, and they thought it had a bad head gasket, which I'm not sure if it really did, or I mean, it may have been a little leaky, but I think that was probably secondary to everything else that was wrong with it, because that shop didn't want to work on it, and I had it AAA tow it to Huntington Beach, and Danny there thought that the problem was because it had sat so long. It had rust and sediment all in the block, and it was like kind of congealing around the cylinders, and that was what was making it overheat.
Interesting.
So they had to pull the heads off and everything and clean it all out. but it hasn't overheated ever since then,
Oh,
so
well.
that's good.
Danny knows his stuff. So that's probably what it was. I know when I had DMC California do my car, and they replaced the radiator and did a whole bunch of other stuff, but I had one minor issue where the car overheated after a parade, actually just over a year ago at the Christmas parade, and went back, asked Danny, and the car had no problems prior, and I've not had a problem since. So it could have just been one unlucky moment when there was air in the line or who knows what. But I'm thankful that I don't have the cooling problems that a lot of people do. And hopefully it sounds like you won't have those problems anymore either.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any more overheating. Like, in fact, it runs so steady, I've had occasion to wonder if there was something wrong with my temperature sender. But if I'm driving slow or uphill for a long time, it still will start to creep up a little bit, but then the fans will kick on and it'll be okay.
And mine does exactly the same thing. That's why I feel like, okay, I know the gauge is working because I can see it creep up. You know, you're doing this, especially in LA, sometimes you get stuck in traffic and I can see it go up, but sure enough, the fans come on. I do want to install, Toby Peterson in Northwest has an adjustment, not valve, I don't know what it is. So you can adjust when the fans come on. Chris Miles has looked at my car as well, and he's like, the fans come on a little bit late. So I think when it's time to replace that outer stat, I'm going to put on Toby's thing so that I can turn the fans on just a little bit sooner. Because the cheat is to just turn on the air conditioning. Because DMC California confirmed that when you turn on the air conditioner, 100% of the time the fans will come on and stay on as long as the AC is on. So that's always a good backup. So that's been my, if I get a little nervous, I'll turn it on. And now during parades, I do it all the time, just to make sure. I'll turn the AC on. Have you done any parades yet with the car?
Yeah, I did one. It was a parade down in South Jordan that Jay was in, and he drives his car there, and he's got like the Marty McFly truck too. So his wife Shannon would drive that, and
that's right.
He asked us all at DeLorean Club if anybody wanted to come out and be in this parade, and we just had a tech session the night before and used my car as a demonstrator on how to wash a DeLorean. So I figured as long as my car was all clean, I better come down there and show it off.
That's funny. Well, that's cool. Man, I think about, I'm barely 2 years, you're a year and a half, and I think about all the people that have had their car for 10, 20, 30 years. I am so excited to be one of those people to hopefully have the car for a long time and do tons of parades and shows. I love sharing the car with people. So we got a few more years of parades, I'm sure. Yeah,
I mostly do just, impromptu car shows wherever I stop.
Get gas. Yesterday, I picked up a friend who's a flight attendant, and he lives in Orlando area, Florida. And he was out here at LAX, so I drove the DeLorean up there, and he knew, him and his fiance know that I have a DeLorean, but I haven't seen them since they came out here to Disneyland last year. And when I saw him at the park, and then I picked him up, took him to the airport in my Jetta. So this time I was like, it's just him. So I went to the airport or went to his hotel, picked him up. We drove around. I think because yesterday was New Year's Day, and it was, 70 degrees here. There was a lot of people out, and of course lots of people are visiting. And literally at the hotel picking him up, he brought out one of his flight attendant crew members that he works with, and then there were 6 hotel valet people all came out to the car at the same time to take pictures and look at it. And my friend Joe, he's like, oh my gosh, it's like you're a celebrity. I'm like, the car is a celebrity. And people driving by, just everybody, love the car. It's so fun. So then I drove him over to Marina Del Rey. We went out to the jetty, and again, just park in the car. People stopped, took pictures. The car parked next to us. Like, hey, really cool car, man. Love the car. And Joe is, again, blown away. He's like, I can't believe how many people love this car. This is amazing. I said, it's not me. It's just the car, but it's fun to share. And it happened a couple more times before I took him back. So it is a lot of fun. do you have some favorite things about driving the car, or have you had any funny experiences doing all the miles you've had on the car so far?
Yeah, I mean, just, every gas station turns into a one-person car show. A lot of people tell me it's the first one they've ever seen in person. There was one time I was stopped at a rest stop in, I guess it was Sinclair, Wyoming, and there was another couple there that had a Vixen. And I don't know if your listeners know that Bill Collins, who originally had worked for DMC, went and founded that company. And so there was kind of a connection between our vehicles. And so we were just kind of shooting the breeze and looking at each other's cars and things. So that was interesting. It's like, what are the chances? And,
at a rest stop in the middle of, what was it, Wyoming?
Wyoming, yeah.
Crazy. I don't know that I've ever seen a Vixen.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. Little, basically a two-person motorhome, and they're pretty cool little things. I kind of wouldn't mind getting one myself, but yeah.
Oh, very cool.
The other guy who just had driven his car back to Seattle, I think, was at one of those same rest stops and said the gas station attendant came out and was like oohing and eyeing over his car and said he'd only ever seen one before and showed him a picture of my car.
No.
So that's kind of like small world.
That's awesome. How funny.
Yeah.
How fun. That's why I love the web, looking at as the pictures show up all over the place. And of course on DMC Talk and DeLorean Fanatics and different Facebook groups, people are like, whose car is this? Who is this? Who loaned your car for this TV shoot and this music video? And oh, I spotted this on the freeway. It's really fun to kind of do Where's Waldo with the car.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite thing about driving the DeLorean other than sharing with people? Like, you've done a lot of miles. So is it the seats? Is it, do you have good radio in, or what's your favorite thing about driving the DeLorean, especially long distance?
Well, honestly, I don't know. It's like, there are a lot of things about it I don't really like for long distance driving. Like
what?
When I get out of it after a long trip, my hips just feel like they've been napalmed. But
really,
I don't know if my seats have just kind of hardened up over the years. But
because I just drove for Thanksgiving. I drove from LA to San Jose with a stop in Fresno. And that was a fair distance, and I didn't feel that at all. Like I felt like the car was really comfortable. How do you drive with your seat pretty far back, or do you have it leaned forward? Because mine is leaned all the way back.
Yeah, I have to pull it most of the way forward just so I can reach the pedals.
Oh yeah, you're a little shorter than I am. That's true.
Yeah, I'm 5'4", which I guess is about a foot shorter than the target audience for this car.
Or the maximum audience, yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah, there's no height adjustment on the seats to raise and lower it, just forward and backwards.
Yeah.
Because I imagine if you don't have the seat tilted forward or up much, you probably wouldn't be able to see very well. I have a hard enough time. I don't feel like there's good visibility through the windshield. Huh.
Yeah, one thing it does have, I guess, is air conditioning. My previous daily driver that I had for 20 years didn't have AC from the factory, so...
You can't drive a DeLorean without air conditioning. Maybe in the Midwest during the winter.
Yeah, I actually just very recently used the AC for the bulk of a long trip for the first time since I've had it, because I was driving back from Vegas. Ryan Brandis was riding shotgun, and he's less of a lizard person than I am, I guess, and he was dying without the AC on, so I turned it on like all the way from Vegas into central Utah, and I was impressed that it worked the whole way and didn't seem to strain the engine or anything. Up until that point, I had barely used it except for the rare times when I was in stop-and-go traffic or like it was raining and the sun was out, so I had to put the windows up.
You had to roll up the windows. That's Utah, right? So
yeah.
So when you picked up your car, and you went and visited friends and family in Jersey and in Oceanside. What's your family say, or what do they think about the car, and what do they think about you having the car?
Oh, they think it's awesome. Like, my aunt and my cousins were all like wanting me to take their pictures with it and everything. And my great uncle, who's 86, he had an MG for years, well, like practically his whole life, that he just finally found a new home for a few months ago. And so being a car person kind of runs in the family. Everybody wanted to take a ride in it, and
Awesome.
I visited my mom's cousin up in her retirement home, and like everybody was kind of looking out the windows at it and stuff.
That's fun. That's
yeah.
awesome. What other plans do you have? Are you going back to Chicago anytime soon, or what's your next long road trip?
Well, we have the Utah DeLorean Club National Park trip that we're going to try to plan in June, where we're going to drive down south and go to Bryce Canyon and Moab and Zion. So that should be fun. And I want to try to go to DCS in August.
Yeah, you're going to drive the car, or you're going to fly?
I'm going to try to drive.
Well, you've done it enough
crossing
times.
my fingers.
You've already done it a couple times.
Yeah, as long as I can get enough time off of work that I don't have to drive 700 miles a day for 2 days in a row.
That's true.
Which I think the car would probably be up for, but I don't know if I would be. Like, that's just too much anymore. Like, just making it to Vegas in one shot is kind of rough these days.
Get another DeLorean owner to go with you, and you can tag team the driving.
Yeah, maybe.
And did you go to DCS 2 years ago?
No, I didn't really get that involved in the community till I started looking for my own car, so I kind of missed the boat on a lot of stuff that had been going on up until recently.
Sure. I'd only had my car 6 months, and I went to the DCS. Now I'm looking back thinking, I was literally a child. Even though I had followed the car for so long, I really knew nothing. So I'm really excited for this one because now I know more, and I've had the car longer, I've driven it more, and all that. So the I just pulled up the page. It's dmcutah.com, and the front page right now is 2018 National Park Tour, June 10th to the 15th. So anybody who is in the area should definitely check that out, dmcutah.com, and looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I know I talked to Jay about it many months ago, and I talked to him about it a while back, and I thought, oh man, there's no way. That's way too far of a drive. I'm freaked out about my car. But now after driving the car to Fresno and then San Jose and back, and it just performed flawlessly, and I usually take it in and get it checked out before I go drive to Vegas, and that's like 3 to 4.5 hours of driving, and at least for me, the car has been great. So I think it'd be fun to do that national park tour, especially over a couple of days.
Come on out.
Yeah, and man, I say it all the time, but there is just something super special about having at least 2 DeLoreans in a row anywhere. Put two anything else, 2 Beetles together or 2 Corvettes together, I'm not as impressed. But to see 2 DeLoreans together, to me, it's just really unique and fun. So that's why the parades are fun, and this would be awesome if you guys can get more than 2 or 3 DeLoreans to go do a road trip like this and see all these places.
Yeah,
it'd be awesome.
I remember thinking at the DeLorean Expo and then DeLorean Weekend that was the most DeLoreans I'd ever seen in one place outside of a repair shop.
Right. Yeah. So this is funny. I went to DMC California a week ago. It was the week between Christmas and New Year's. And as I come driving up, there's normally between 8 and 15 cars parked on the street on both sides, and then several more in the parking lot when you drive up. It's really easy to spot DeLorean California. I turn the corner, there's no cars on the street, no DeLoreans. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, there's no way that they have nothing to work on because they're always busy. I turn into the parking lot, just Danny's truck in the in the parking lot. I'm like, are they closed? What is going on? We go inside. Sure enough, they had generally shut down for the holidays, but Danny was still there to answer the phone and do other stuff. I was blown away. So all the cars were parked inside their shop and, in the back, but really weird to not see all the DeLoreans parked out front like there usually are. And I guess over the holidays, people didn't have all their cars over there to get worked on, but I'm sure that this week and next week, it'll be right back to normal where they're going to be tons of cars parked on the street. So it's fun seeing all those cars together just at the shop.
Yeah.
Just like in a parade. You've had a bunch of work done by different shops around the country, it sounds like.
Yeah.
What have you personally done to the car?
Let's see. Well, I've replaced some coolant line clamps, sometimes in my garage, sometimes in the parking lot at work. I had the binnacle off to fix. There was a problem with my left-hand gauges. My temperature and amp gauges would randomly go dead, and nobody could figure out why.
Huh.
And when I finally got the binnacle off and pulled the connector for those off, it turned out one of the little gold, the
Connectors.
little thingies. Yeah, it was kind of crinkled up, so I straightened that out and plugged it back in, and it's been okay ever since.
Oh, that's simple. How hard was it to take the binnacle off?
Not as hard as I expected. I found a guide online to do it, and it might have been harder if I were larger and couldn't fit under the dash as easily.
Right.
I got in there without taking the seat out, but I think somebody who was a lot bigger than me would probably have had to take the seat out to get under there. It definitely wasn't very comfortable being upside down under the dashboard.
Yep.
But so I did that, and then I did a window repair on my driver's side window because the little drop glass had come off its track and wasn't closing right.
And you did that yourself? So my window motor on the drive, I already had the window motor replaced on the passenger side, and at the same time they fixed I had the original plastic door handle, and it had broken when it was first in the shop after being pulled out of the barn find. But I have the metal door handle on the driver's side, and I need to replace the motor, and the window is off the track just a little bit, but it'll still go up and down. But then I also recently, the felt came off, so I'm paranoid about putting the window up and down and scratching the glass. But I'm scared to do it myself.
Too,
you did.
While I was in there.
Right, when you're in there. So that's the thing. There's part of me that wants to do that, but I'm a little paranoid about taking the door off or door apart and doing that stuff. Did you do it by yourself, or was it just looking at pictures online?
I had the guide on how to do it. Like, that's one of the nice things about these cars. You can pretty much find somebody who's done whatever you're trying to do before and has written a how-to about it. It was actually way easier and less time-consuming fixing that than it was fixing a malfunctioning power window on my '02 Honda Accord. So
wow,
I think I fixed the window in the DeLorean in less than 3 hours, and the Accord, I was banging my head against the wall for like 2 months trying to even figure out what was wrong with it.
So one of the things that Chris Miles up in Central California, he's done a ton of stuff to his car, and one of the things he did was the little plastic trees when you take the door panels off, those little plastic trees that go in and out of the actual door, they get stripped and they break and whatever. He replaced those with neodymium magnets.
Oh, I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, DeLorean Weekend.
See him talk about that.
Yeah, so he
That's
was
a good
showing
idea.
that. Holy cow, it is awesome. So I have been kind of chicken to do it myself, but he's kind of an inspiration. And now hearing another person has done it, I don't know. you're not a mechanic by trade. So the Brandies, they take their cars apart and do all kinds of stuff. So not that it's not special, but they kind of do it a lot. So I'm not as impressed. But when a normal person like you or Chris do it, I'm like, okay, I know I can do it too. So I'm excited to, when the time comes, maybe I will try taking the door panels off. I'll put the magnets on instead of the little trees, and maybe I'll see if I can fix the window track. I understand.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
I understand it's quite a pain to replace the window motor. And I need
I can imagine it would be.
And I also need to replace the door lock cylinders. I think now people are putting in actuators, but there's still some debate about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to do that because my power locks have never worked, and I'm still doing it, the 1970s way by turning the key to lock and unlock both sides.
Yeah, that's mine too. Mine had the original lock module in it, which I've heard can drain the battery, and the seller had just taken it out. And I never bothered replacing it, but
so you're still doing.
Figure it works okay.
And you're still doing the manual lock and unlock as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that big of a deal, and it's not like you're driving it to work, but I usually am just out for fun, so I'm not in a big rush. But if it's just a driver's side, no big deal. So other than maintenance types things, what other modifications have you done to the car? Have you added anything, whether for fun or not? Have you done lighting or different stereo or upgraded speakers or changed the interior?
Well, I have my Walmart seat covers. Those are pretty pimptastic. Nobody's ever seen them in person. They're zebra striped. I thought they were cool, and they were on clearance. I have a fire suppressor in the engine compartment. It's called a blaze cut. It's a tube of plastic with suppressant in it that's supposed to melt if it gets too hot and then release the suppressant. I don't know how well it would work in a vented compartment like that, but I figured if anything happened, it would buy me some extra time at least.
Because
I have,
you see these cars that the engine catches and half the car is gone.
Yeah.
And I know
the other
Manson Chung actually has that same thing. When he was on many episodes ago, I think 009, he talked about it, and I'd never heard of it. Really good idea. So I've thought about doing it too, just as it's a secondary measure to make sure the whole car doesn't go up.
Yeah, the things, they're only like $100, so it's some cheap insurance just in case.
Right.
The other thing I have is this thing Jay invented. It's like a padded armrest cover that goes over your center console, and it's got like fake leather on the outside and memory foam on the inside. Makes it a little less hard on your elbows on long trips.
And I bought one of those as well. Absolutely awesome. At first, I thought, big deal. But now, especially after driving north-south, Southern California to Central or Northern California and back, it is super comfortable, and it fits the car perfectly fine. It does not look out of place. I think most people wouldn't even see that it's not an original part. I love that center, that padded center cover. And I think that's also on your site too, right? It's on dmcutah.com, is it?
Yeah, I don't think we have any of them in stock right now, but we get them in every so often, and we've been selling them as a club fundraiser.
Yeah, as a way to help, because you guys are just starting the club in Utah, and you're not centrally located to, like in a major, Salt Lake's a big city, but it's not on the West Coast. So trying to get you guys started, that's a good fundraiser. That's why it seems a little expensive, but it's like, it's also to help the club cover cost of bringing people in and doing special events. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not just trying to sell it for you guys. I really do love that. I really do love that. It's a good addition.
Yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedback on that. I haven't heard anybody that ordered it say they didn't like it, so I think it's a good thing.
So you've got the suppressor and the padded armrest. Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. I don't know. I kept it mostly as close to original as possible. It hasn't really needed a lot. The interior was in good shape when I bought it. It must have been garaged because it was originally from Texas, and
Oh, wow.
they're saying at Midwest, usually when they get cars from the Southwest, like the body and frame are pristine, but then the interior's trashed from the sun, but this was still in decent shape.
Nice. Was there an upgraded stereo when you got it, or do you still have the original radio?
No, it's the original one or an original one.
Is it the ASI or the Craig?
ASI.
Nice. Same here.
Supposedly the tape deck works, but out of the racks of hundreds of cassettes I've been saving since 1990, just in case I ever bought a DeLorean with a tape deck, I can't find my Back to the Future one, so I haven't tested it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, those tapes. I wore out my tape, my original Back to the Future soundtrack tape, 25 years ago, and a while back I bought one, and I'm looking at it right now on my shelf, but I haven't actually put it in the car. Because, well, I upgraded I have the ASI radio as well, but I had Dimitri do the Bluetooth conversion, so now I can just...
Oh, yeah.
Totally worth it. Love it. Awesome. So is your an automatic or a manual?
Manual.
Right on. And is the front end lowered, or is it still stock?
No, it's still stock. I just had the shocks replaced a few months ago. I had gotten new front-end shocks when I first bought it, but I was on a time crunch, and they had to use some off-the-shelf ones that weren't as good as the ones DMC would normally sell.
Yeah.
One of them broke after about 10,000 miles.
What? Wow.
So I had the DMC ones put on, but it's all still the original suspension. Mine sometimes does sit a little lower than it otherwise would because I have a bunch of stuff in the trunk. But
that's right. At DeLorean weekend this last year, I saw you have a full-size jack and jack stands. You got a lot of stuff in your trunk.
Yeah.
But then I didn't
try to be.
You're prepared, but I didn't at that time. I didn't realize you had done that drive Chicago back and forth so many times. So that I take back anything I said, because I thought I was bad about carrying a lot of stuff in the trunk, but yeah, you had a lot. Totally acceptable now. I probably do the same thing if I was doing that much driving, especially back and forth. Like I just posted on DMC a couple weeks ago asking how many people have had a flat tire and successfully used the spare. And I think there was 22, 24 replies, and only 2 people had ever used the spare. Because I'm thinking about pulling the spare out. Living in Southern California and driving only to Vegas and in Northern California, AAA is everywhere. If I get a flat tire, it's unlikely that I'm going to put this donut on and drive someplace anyway, because it's a lot of time to do it, and I could just as easily get a flatbed to come pick up the car. So talking about how much stuff is in the trunk, it's not like I want to carry a bunch more stuff, but it'd be nice to have that little bit extra space. And I'm assuming you haven't had any flat tires since you've had the car.
No, I haven't. The tires were new when I got it, so knock on wood, I haven't had too much trouble with them.
In your short ownership, do you recall what the best piece of advice is that you've gotten about the car? Anything related to the car? Like, is there one thing that somebody told you that has been, that you think about regularly, or it's been a super, super helpful?
Well, stop driving when the temperature gets to 220. That's probably the best one.
Yeah. Better than blowing an engine.
Yeah. I've had to do that several times.
Yeah, well, you've driven a lot just in the last year and a half. The more I drive it, I just love it. I love sharing it, but it's just fun to be in there. I will, though, admit, when I came back from that trip, Thanksgiving, to come back from Northern California, I was gone for a total of, 5 days or something, and driving the car around. After I parked the car back in the garage, and then the next day I went to the grocery store or something, and I got in my Jetta. As I was 8 seconds away from my house, I went, oh yeah, this is what a new car feels like. This is what a non-35-year-old car feels like when you're driving it. Nice and comfortable, and the heated seats came on, and yeah, it was much different than the DeLorean. Better in some ways, not in others. Nobody ever looks twice at you when you're sitting at a red light in a Jetta.
Yeah, I had an 87 CRX that was my daily driver since I was 19 up until about 4 months ago, and I've got a '02 Accord now that's my daily, and it's the newest car I've ever had.
2002.
I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but it's overly complicated, I think.
That's
I mean,
funny.
there is something to be said for having a car that you can be completely incognito in, but sometimes you just want to be a rock star.
It is fun, and in fact, yesterday with picking up Joe at the hotel and just driving around, same thing on the freeway. The people honking and giving the thumbs up. It's fun. You definitely cannot. You really can't hide in the DeLorean.
Yeah, it makes my day when people like wave to me or take my picture or whatever.
Yeah, it is fun, right? It does. You just. I've met you and talked to you plenty of times. You're not stuck up. You're a very friendly, nice person. You're pretty low key. I love people, but I'm not interested in being anybody famous or important. But it is really fun that people love the car so much because the thumbs up and the honks. You're right. It makes you feel good, not because you are the person. They're not looking at you or me. It's fun. It makes you feel good that people enjoy the car.
Yeah. It always makes people's day when they see it, and it kind of makes my day when people get excited about the car too. So it's fun.
It's a smile machine.
Yeah. Every day in this car is a new adventure, and usually in a good way.
Yeah, usually in a good way. Yeah.
When I first bought it, that night I picked it up at Midwest at like 9:00 at night, and they set off heading west that night, and I just drove till 2 a.m, and I was singing "Living on a Prayer" at the top of my lungs driving through Iowa, and it was just like, if I could live one night of my life over again, I think it would be that night, because it was just like this total dream come true, and I couldn't even believe it was really happening.
Yeah. I think I just told that story with the last episode talking to Chris about that, I think I did, that you're right. It is a dream come true. All of a sudden you're driving a DeLorean, not just around the corner, but you're on the road. And now that I've got that Bluetooth upgraded ASI, I'm listening to music a lot more, and I've got my 80s favorite playlist that is just fantastic. So when I'm driving the car, super fun, and when I'm showing the car to friends, I'll put on my Back to the Future playlist and let that music play. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, I've got a little like FM transmitter thing that you can plug your iPod into, and it broadcasts on a dead frequency.
Yep.
I don't use it that much because I actually kind of just like listening to the radio and hearing random songs, but I'll put it on when I'm in a dead spot in central Utah or like the middle of nowhere in Wyoming and stuff. And like I'll put songs that I heard for the first time on a road trip or things like that on it, and it's fun.
Awesome. Well, I am looking forward to seeing you at DCS, because I think that's probably the next time that we would run into each other, because I'm not coming to Utah in time. Oh, wait. Well, you might be coming to California. Duh. Because you have family here? Yeah.
Yeah, I have my cousin lives in Oceanside, and I have a friend who lives up in Hemet, and so I get down there every so often.
Yeah,
I won't be driving this time unless we have really an unseasonable warm snap. But,
in the next few weeks. Hopefully we can get a bunch of people to come out on that Monday night. Is that January 22nd? And
Hmm.
I don't know if there's any solid plans yet, but in San Diego, we're going to try to connect up with you and get a burger someplace and try to get some other owners together to just come and say hi and visit. And that should be pretty fun.
Yeah.
We just did the same thing with Chris Miles. He was here last week, and a bunch of us went down to, he and I got in my DeLorean. We drove down to San Diego and met up with a bunch of other owners. Had a fantastic time. In fact, I posted online, I said it was like a mini DeLorean weekend Las Vegas, because it was just hanging out and talking. I love that more than anything. DCS 2 years ago was fantastic. I'm sure this one's going to be great, but there is something about just hanging out and talking to other owners, which is amazing. So hopefully when you're here, we can pull that same thing off and get a bunch of people to come together, just get a burger and soda and hang out, talk about the cars and share stories. And maybe every time you come back out here, we can pull it off as well.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And the same is true for anybody that's listening. If you come to basically anywhere in Southern California, I'm in Orange County, so I'm pretty easy to go north to LA or south to San Diego. There's a good group of people in San Diego, group of owners in San Diego that get together, and I think it would be great to start meeting people even without your car. If you're coming to Southern California and want to meet some other owners, send in an email, comments@DeLoreanTalk.com, or post up on any of the Facebook groups for the local clubs and say, hey, I'm coming and I want to meet up with some other owners, because it's great to meet people. That's why DeLorean Weekend was awesome. That's why DCS was awesome, because you get to connect and make these connections. I probably wouldn't have ended up talking to you if it hadn't been to DeLorean Weekend.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was fun meeting everybody there, and Expo was fun too. DOA wants to do another one of those in 19 in the Pacific Northwest, so hopefully we can get some people out at that too. And
oh man, and yeah, in the Northwest there's a lot of people up there.
Yeah, I know they have a really active club up there. I think Jay's a member of the Northwest one too, and they do a lot of stuff. I'm a member
too. $20 a year to be part of Pacific Northwest DeLorean Club. They do 2 or 4 newsletters a year. They have great information. They send out great emails. Mm-hmm. And for $20, it's like, I don't mind supporting the club. That's a nice low price. And I was up there this last March, joined them for their St. Patrick's Day parade, just by myself without my car. Really awesome people.
Oh, fun.
And Toby Peterson is just incredible. He is super helpful and has so much information.
Yeah, we're trying to get him to maybe come along with us on our June trip. We're not sure. Jay's talking to him. I'm not sure what his schedule is going to be like, but that would be nice if we could get him out there too.
Oh man,
so,
that would be amazing.
And Rob Grady had expressed some interest in coming, so maybe he'll make it out, and that would be nice. We had those two guys out to, have some tech sessions and things.
Yeah. Well, dmcutah.com for the Utah club. And pleasure talking to you again, Dara. Thanks for joining me and sharing some of the story and the history of your car and your experience. And look forward to seeing more of your photos. Oh, that's right. I got to mention that photo. At the moment, it's on the DeLorean directory header on the Facebook page. Absolutely amazing photo you got of your car with both doors up and in a beautiful sunset background I'm assuming it was in Utah?
Yeah, it was actually out by salt flats. I didn't go out on the salt, but there's an access road that kind of goes out there right by the water and the salt flats, and it was just a freak accident that I ended up out there that night, because I'm an air traffic controller, and I had been having some vision problems. It turned out they wanted me to get glasses, and I couldn't get them that day, so I couldn't work. So I took sick leave and drove out to the salt flat and took that picture.
It is gorgeous, and I said it to you, but I sincerely mean it. I think that's one of the most beautiful pictures of a DeLorean that I've seen online anywhere. Really beautiful, beautiful picture. I'm gonna have to buy a print of that from you and hang that up. I wish it was my picture because it is awesome.
Living the dream, as they say.
Great. All right. Well, thanks again, Dara. Thanks to everybody who is listening and sharing. Please do share the show on your own social media. Check out DeLoreanDirectory.com. Check out DeLoreanTalk.com for all the episodes. Be sure to share the DeLorean census in your groups, and let's try to get together a good recent updated list of all the DeLoreans out there at DeLoreanDirectory.com/census. And if you have comments, ideas, suggestions, be critical. You're not going to offend me. Send in email to comments@DeLoreanTalk.com. And looking forward to hearing from all of you in the future. Have a great drive.